Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So you already seen the picture, so I don't have to try to get him in here. I do have a wide angle lens that is coming. For now, I just got to deal with this. Anyway, so yeah, I got a request to do a dinosaur, so took me a couple of days, but I finally got one designed for you. So this is what we're going to do in the video today. You are going to need a 5mm or an H. I think it's an H. And a stitch marker, of course. This is what we work with. Let me lower this. So, the yarn I'm using is, I bought at Walmart, but you can find it at Michael's. It is a light camouflage or a camouflage. This is a light camouflage that you get at Walmart. It's a 4-weight, worsted weight. The one you get at Michael's, I'm not too sure what it is. It's a 4-weight for sure. Whether it's worsted or not, I have no idea. And it is called just camouflage, but it's pretty much the exact same color. You don't have to use this. You can use whatever you want. I just thought it looked super cute done in camo. So this is what I'm using today. They come in great big huge balls, and I have a cake. I have a yarn winder, so it turns everything into cakes, so it's just a lot easier to work with. It doesn't come in a cake, just so you know. It does just come in great big ginormous ball at Walmart for 10 bucks. So a cake is just way easier for me. So get your stuff together and we'll get started. Alright, so we are starting with the legs and we're working our way up. The only thing we're actually going to have to sew on are the arms and then all the scales. Everything else is just going to be built in one piece, which is the way I like to do things. So you're going to start with a magic ring. And 6 single crochets. Hope this isn't hard to see. You're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch around for a total of 12. Now you can just count to 12, or you can use your stitch marker. If you're going to use your stitch marker, put your stitch marker in after the first stitch. I'm just going to count to 12. So this is where it's going to get weird. We're going to shape the foot strange. Well, strange to you, not strange to me. So the next 3 stitches, you're going to put 2 double crochets in each of the next 3 stitches. So after your first one, you want to put your stitch marker. You can put your second one in there. You're going to do 2 half double crochets each in the next 2 stitches. I don't feel like I did. No, I didn't. 2 half double crochets. Oh, I did. That'd be number 2. Snagging on something. I don't often snag on worsted weight. 2 single crochets in the next 5 stitches. And 2 half double crochets in the next 2 stitches. So your next round is going to be, let me get my pointer. We're just going into the back loops, which are these guys right here. So we're just going to do 1 single crochet in each of the back loops all the way around. So this is where it's going to take the sole of the foot up into the foot part. So you'll see what I mean after. Don't worry about stretching that out, it all goes back into shape. You'll see a line. That's the ridge we just put around the foot. So for the next 2 rows, you can do the same thing, 1 single crochet in each stitch, the entire stitch. You don't have to do back loops anymore. And I will put my pause screen up and I will meet you back on the other side. Alright, so I got my 2 rows done. So we are going to decrease 6 times. There's 1, put your stitch marker in. That's my 6. And then you're just gonna single crochet 12 to your marker. So that's what your foot should look like at this point. Starting to look like a foot a little bit. So now you're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. And then we do another funny decrease. Should have 18, I was 1 short, so I just put 2 in that last hole, just to make it 18. So your next decrease is going to be 5 decreases, and then 8 single crochets to the marker. That's my 8 single crochet to the marker. So you get the idea of what your foot's going to look like. Little monster foot. So from here we are going to do 8 rows, and then you're going to make another one. So I'm not going to do the 8 rows with you. I'm going to put my pause screen up, and so my screen will consist of finishing your 8 rows, and then a pattern so that you can make a second leg, and then I'll meet you back here after we have both of our legs, and we'll get them stuffed and ready to go to crochet together so we can get the body done. Alright, I'm back and I've got both my legs. I didn't fasten off with this leg. So with this leg, just go through here and pull this through this way. So you could just shove it down in there. It'll get all lost and tangled in with the stuffing. So once you have both your legs, and they're all stuffed the same. Actually, I don't think that is. This leg's fatter than this leg. I have to put. Oh. Some more stuffing down there. Okay, so once you have your legs, figure out how you want your legs, whether you want your feet like that or like this or maybe like this, but just figure out how you want your legs. I'm just going to do mine straight. You're going to take your stitch marker and you're going to go into that stitch, into all 4 stitches. You're just going to hold it together where you want your feet. So we're just going to single crochet up to just before the marker, and then you have another decision to make. So I'm up to the marker. So decision is based on how far apart you want your legs to be on the dinosaur. If you want to just follow me, I just chained 3. And then you go into the stitch right next to the marker. Single crochet. Try to keep things fairly tight. And then you can just continue to crochet around to the other side of the marker. So once you get back to the other side, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to chain whatever you chain for the leg space. Go across here. And then back around. So at this point you can take your thing off. If I come back around, I'm going to be at the front. And I actually want to change my position of my stitch marker to be at the back. That's my own personal reasons. And I do that especially if I'm going to be changing colors. Now, I'm not going to be changing colors, but I still prefer my marker to be at the back. So I'm just going to put it in a different spot. It's not going to affect how this looks at all. It just affects where you stop and start. So when you are going to single crochet the next row, you're going to have to get into these stitches, but there's only 3, so it's no big deal. So you're just going to single crochet all the way back around to your marker, wherever your marker is. If you've put it back in the same spot, then that's fine. Which is right about here is where mine was, so I'm only 6 stitches away from where I had it originally. So make sure you're getting into this stitch before the chain. And yeah, we're going to have a hole in our crotch, but we're going to sew that up nice. So you have to go right into the chain. All 3 of those. I just like to hold my finger at the back. It kind of helps me. Makes it easier on my life. Then you have to make sure you go into this chain that's right before or after the chain. And then we continue around, do the same thing. Oh, snagged. So this is going to be an increase round. So it's going to be 1 single crochet and an increase all the way around. That's my 1 single crochet and my increase. I'll show you the increase. 1 single crochet. Oh, I didn't do an increase, I did a decrease. Why am I doing that? I did that on my last doll, I swear to God. So 1 single crochet and an increase of 2 single crochets in that space. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet all the way around. And I will meet you. I don't know what you did here, so I can't give you a number count because I don't know how many spaces you did here. So I will meet you back around on the other side. Okay, so I got my 11 rows done. Before we go any further, I think we should probably sew up the crotch. You're probably using your yarn. I have another one because, like I said, I turn my big balls into cakes. So you're either going to have to just reattach or use it. I don't know, you can use green, you can use brown, you can use, there's all kinds of colors in this that you can use to sew up the crotch that nobody's probably going to notice. I've probably got too long of a piece there, but my needle. So on one end of this, I want you to make a slip knot. And then find your other end, which again, I think I cut too long of a piece. So we're just going to whip stitch. And if you don't know how to whip stitch, then you're learning from the wrong person. Because I don't sew well, like I say in every video. You're going to have to go in here where the leg is open a bit. Very hard to show on camera. I will do my very, very best. Please don't come down on me if I'm not doing well. Go through that slip knot. Now just pull everything super tight. Super tight. just so that's a tiny, tiny little small knot. So a whip stitch consists of going through the back loop of a stitch and the back loop of a stitch. So that's all you're going to do. You don't have to go through the whole, I mean, you can go through the whole stitch if you want to. I am not. I'm going to go through the back loop and the back loop, and I'm just going to do a regular whip stitch. Oops. And you shouldn't even see it. So don't go back in this way after you've come out this side. You're going to go back in this way. So you're making a loop around like that. So when you pull it, it should just look like a stitch. So now we can start putting some stuffing in this bad boy. Now that we've got that done, I'm going to weave into the stuffing in the leg and the foot area. Give it a snug little pull. And you're going to go back down into the stuffing as close as you can to that tail, just so it looks like a stitch. And that's how you're going to weave, so it's not noticeable. So that just looks like a stitch when you pull it. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go right down to the leg as close as you can to the yarn. So as close as you can, so it just looks like a stitch. Go into that filling, that polyfill or whatever you're using. And we tied a super knot, so you can just go in once and cut it off. I'm sure it'll be fine. My needle. There, now the crotch is all sewn. We can start putting some stuffing in here. So I just got some sitting here. It is going to be hard to hold on to if you put too much stuffing in here, so try not to overstuff, but I really want you to focus on this part of the leg, getting the stuffing right down in there. Super important if you do want him to stand up on his own a little bit. Super important to get the stuffing right down in there. Now pull your stuffing apart a little bit so it doesn't get all clumpy in there. And don't be in such a hurry. Put in small bits at a time. There is an actual art to stuffing, if you can believe it. I mean, not an art, I'm just being an idiot by using that term, but I mean, really, you can screw it up. I've done it. Lots. Anyway, I digress. And I mean, really, we're just gonna, it's not important for this part yet, just super important to get down into those legs. So that's now your crotch, and I know with it being camel it's hard to see anyway, but if you've seen any of my other videos, then you know that what it looks like when you sew up a crotch using a whip stitch. So we're going to start decreasing now at this point. So I want you to do 3 single crochets and a decrease. So there's number 1. Three single crochets, and then your decrease is going to be over these 2 stitches. So you're going to go in, you're going to yarn over, pull through, and do nothing. Stop. Go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through. You have 3 loops, and you're going to come through all 3 of those loops. So that's a decrease. So 3 single crochets and a decrease. And I will meet you on the other side. So for this one I had 35 when I would come back around. So your next decrease is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. So 2 single crochets and then your decrease. And then you just repeat that all the way around. 2 single crochets and a decrease. And I will meet you back on the other side. So our next decrease row is going to be the same thing that we just did, but we're going to do it again. So it's 2 single crochets and a decrease. And then after that, I will put my pause screen up for all of this, so don't worry, it'll be all written down for you. So after that, I'm just trying to keep the video short. You're going to do 3 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch after this decrease. So I will put my pause screen up and everything that you got to do, and then I'll meet you back here after all of that is done, and we'll proceed. So I've got my decrease done, my 3 rows of single crochets done. So I just want to put a little more stuffing in this before we continue. So this is basically our neck. Oh, it's gonna be hard to show you. We're basically at the neck. So we're going to start increasing for the head. So to fill this right out, I like to just, I know I'm really close to the camera, use my fingers, push it out and then turn. And then once you've created that nice hole in the center, which is hard to see right now, I just shove the filling right down into that hole. That keeps the edges nice and even, and it's a lot easier to not overstuff that way. For me anyway. I don't know if it'll be the same for you, but for me, because I overstuff things all the time. So it's a lot easier to not overstuff if I do it that way. And again, if you press on it and it doesn't bounce back, it's hard to see. That bounced back, which means I have enough filling in it. And I do want it to be a squishy toy because it is for my little grandson. He's only 10 months old. And then I have another grandson still in the oven baking. So I just want these to be squishy for them. So I'm not going to overfill it. But that's what I like to do, is just press it all the way back. It's turning it, and then you can just fill the hole. And then it turns out so good that way. Alright, let us continue. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. So right now I've got 20 stitches, by the way. I should tell you that. I got 20 stitches around. So the next increase should give us 30 stitches, which is just 1 single crochet and an increase. So it should increase by 10, and then 2 in this hole. So 1 increase, or 1 single crochet and an increase all the way around. So I've got my 2 single crochets and an increase done. So you should have 40 stitches at this point. And we're just going to leap right into another increase row, which is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. That should take you to 50 stitches. And then after that, you're going to do 4 rows of single crochet, which I'll put up on the screen so you know what you're doing. So that's your 1, 2, 3 single crochets and an increase, just 2 in the same hole. So do that and your 4 rows, and we'll follow the screen I'm going to put up, and I will meet you back on the other side. Okay, I got my 4 rows done. So now we're going to start to decrease for this great big funny looking head. So we're going to do 3 single crochets and a decrease. There's 1, my stitch marker. So 3 single crochets and then 2 together for your decrease. And then 2 together. So you can do that all the way around, and I will meet you back on the other side. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease, and then a row of 1 single crochet in each stitch for 30. So I'll put that on my pause screen after this, but that's going to be your first one, and that's 2 single crochets and a decrease. So sometimes you'll see the decrease written as 2 tog, and it's the same thing. So 2 single crochets and 2 together, and that's why it's sometimes you see it as 2 tog. So in case you're ever reading written instructions and you see that, that's what it means. So finish your decrease row and then do a row of 1 single crochets in each stitch, and I'll meet you on the other side of my pause screen. So you can stuff this if you want a little bit. We're just doing, I'm not going to do mine because we still got to put eyes on, but I'm going to do my last decrease before the eyes, and it's just going to be 1 single crochet and decrease, and then your next round after that's going to be, of course, the 1 single crochet in each stitch. So 1 single crochet, and this is where your stitch marker is, and your decrease all the way around, and I will see you on the other side. Alright, so we're going to attach some eyeballs, and then we can put some stuffing in here. So you can find a kit like this on Amazon. It's got all these on Amazon for 15 bucks, 16 bucks. That's Canadian dollars. I don't know what it is in the United States. You get your colored eyes, and then you get your different size just black eyes, and then you get noses with them. So I think, look at my guy here. Yeah. So I used the 12mm black ones for his eyes. Those, and then you get the backs with them in your kit too. I just got them in a little Ziploc baggie. So I have put my eyes between the 6th and 7th row. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6th and 7th row. Make sure I've got the front of my guy. So I'm gonna put one of them here. It's hard to tell when it's not stuffed. So I'm just trying to match up with the leg a little bit. So I did them 6 apart. I know that much. I remember doing that much. 1, 2, 6. And that makes room for the snout. So you gotta leave room for the snout to go in between. No, I think I gotta go one over. One more over. I must not have counted 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, I didn't. That's 5. Alright, I'm gonna go one more over this way. Once the backs are on, that's it. Deal's done. So here we go. One. Back on. This back's going on. Can't change it now. So we're just gonna have to work with it if it's not right. Really just make sure that's on though. So you can add some stuffing to your head now. So we can finish closing up the head once you're ready and you think you're stuffed pretty good. I think that's good. So easy peasy finish. You're going to I think I buried my end. Rookie mistake. Where is my end? Not a rookie mistake. Move my filling around again. Oh gosh, there's polyfill everywhere. So to close the head up, we're just going to decrease 10 times and then you're going to sew the rest of it shut. So there's no single crocheting, there's none of that business. So it should leave you with 5 stitches after. So we're going to go into the next stitch. You're going to slip stitch, pull tight, and you're going to fasten off. Now fasten off with a fair amount to sew and then weave with. So we're going to sew the rest of that shut. I'm going to shove a little more filling in there before I do that because I always do that. Just so I don't have quite a flat head, even though he's going to have things sitting on top of his head. So grab your needle. So you're going to go in this way. And out this way. Just over one piece of yarn. Just one piece of yarn. So in and out. You can do it that way too. And you're going to do that all the way around. You don't need to pull it yet. Go in and out till you get back around to where you fastened off, which is right here. And then you're just going to close that up. So come across here, put a little stitch in here. And you can weave in like that. Kind of snugs that up. There's going to be stuff on top of this, even though it's very nice and cleanly done. There's going to be stuff on top of it, so you can just weave in by going down as close as you can to your tail here, just so it looks like a stitch. Go down into the stuffing and then pop out. And if you don't want to just keep weaving, or you know, you didn't cut that big of a piece, you can tie a knot. Push the knot right down to the doll. You can cut some of it off, not all of it. Leave a little, and then poke that right down, tail and all, into the stuffing, and just do that. Your hole will close back up, and that's your guy. So he looks pretty funny right now. We're going to do the arms after because they tend to get in the way. And next we're going to do the snout, and then we're going to do the tail. Then we'll do the arms, and then we'll do the scales. So that's the game plan. And hopefully I can stick it all into one video. So you're going to make a magic ring. You're gonna single crochet 8 into that ring. It's 8. Pull your little tail. You're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch around for 16. You can count 16 or you can use your marker. I counted last time, so I thought I better show you. So after your marker, or after your first stitch, that's the one that gets the marker, then you put your second stitch in that hole. And then 2 in the rest all the way around. That's my 16, so you can pull your middle closed, and you're just going to do 1 single crochet in each of those 16 stitches. So again, you don't really need a marker, but I will show you. That's my 16. This guy, you can tie him in a knot if it's annoying you. Don't pull tight because you don't really want the knot small because it'll just slip right through. And you can just cut some off. Don't cut all of it off because then it will absolutely come undone. So that's going to be turned inside this way. So we're going to do 1 single crochet and an increase, and at the end of it you should have 24 stitches. That's 1 single crochet, and your increase is 2 in the same hole. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets all the way around. Here. Next 3 rows can be 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and then you can just fasten off with a sewing tail. And I almost missed my first stitch. And so you should have 24. And I will meet you back on the other side. Okie dokie, so I got my 3 rows done. My snout is finished. So I'm going to fasten off with a sewing tail. I'm going to pull my thing in inwards. Just gives it a better look on the outside and not so noticeable. This is going to get stuffing. Well, I mean mine did. Yours doesn't have to. Mine got stuffing. So it's going to sit literally underneath the eyes. That's where it's going to go. I need to invest in some better pins. So wherever you want it, pin it. My pins suck. They're just not strong enough to. But if I put a cajillion in there, just trying to find something that's going to hold this in place. I have this. Oh, I need a needle too. That might help. So I'm going to use one with a hook because I'm going to do invisible stitches. Actually, I'm probably going to do all kinds of stitches just because I don't sew well. So I've put my thing down at the bottom. You know what, all this crap's just going to get in my way. I'm just going to hold it. Because that's what I generally do. So we're going to get started. It's so hard to sew on camera. So invisible stitches is you're going to come up as close as you can to the nose. And you're going to come up into... Oh, might help if I do. Close as you can to the nose, and you're going to come up, and it's going to suck your stitch right down underneath. So no one is going to see your stitches at all. I mean, it's probably going to be hard to see anyway because it's camouflage, it's camo, and I don't mean that as a joke. But I just mean just because of the texture, like the whole lot going on in the camo. So it's going to be hard to see, but if you come up as close as you can, it's hard to show you. I'll try to zoom in, but it's going to suck your stitch right down, and it's just going to look like a stitch. It's not going to look like a sewing stitch. So that is one way. Another way that you can do it, if I can manage to stay on camera, is go down as close as you can to your thing here. It's like when we weave, but you just want it to look like a stitch. So I just go down into the top of that next stitch. And then I come out as head. This also gives a nice hold, and it sucks your stitch right in that you can't even see it. You can come back down the exact same hole and up into another spot, and it'll do its thing here. It won't run all the way through the doll. If that makes sense. Because you're coming back down into the same hole. So so that's just going to look like a stitch. And remember to pull tight. Don't forget to leave a little space to put some stuffing in there. You don't want to do it too soon because it's very difficult to handle if you do. Doesn't take much. It's just a wee little bit. Or well, I mean, you can put in as much as you want. I just put in enough so that it's not going to collapse on itself. So I'm back around where I started, so I'm just going to go down into this last stitch, and I'm going to pop out somewhere. And then I'm just going to weave different directions in and out, but then I like to tie my knot so that I just added security. So again, I don't pull tight on the knot because I actually want it to be a decent sized knot. Because if it's too small of a knot, it's not going to get stuck in the stuffing. And to shove everything down there. Straighten my head out. And my snout. It's very hard to see, but you cannot see any sewing stitches. Well, I mean, the material alone won't let you see them. So let's get started making this tail. It's another one of the longest parts of the video. So you make a magic ring, and you're going to put 6 single crochets in there. You're going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch around, so 6 stitches. Pull this guy tight. Big enough knot that it's not going to go through, so you don't have to make it a tight knot, just make a knot. You don't want it to go through and then pop out and undo. So how I got stuffing on my thing is beyond me. So we want this tail to be pointy. This is why we start off the way we did. So before we get any further, you're going to want to turn this sucker inside out. And I would just use the end of your hook to get back into shape. So now we're going to do an increase row now that we've got a little bit of a point. So you can put your stitch marker in. So we're going to do 1 single crochet and an increase. So that's our 1 single crochet with the stitch marker. And an increase of 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and repeat 1 single crochet and an increase. So you should have 9 stitches when we come back around. thing. Well, my knot stopped it from coming open, but my thing came open again. So you're going to do 1 single crochet in each of those 9 stitches. That's my 9. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So I'm going to put my marker back. So our next row is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. Your next increase is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase, so this is number 1. That's my 4, and then 2 in this same space. So I'm all done my 7 rows. So we're gonna continue to increase. So our next round, and from here we're going to increase. Not going to be any single crochets in between. So our next round is going to be 5 single crochets and an increase, and then we're going to go 6 single crochets and an increase, 7 single crochets and an increase, 9, 8, and 9. So just so you know, if you want to work ahead of me. So that's number 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 single crochets and your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. Five single crochets and 2 in the same space. So if you wanted to continue doing that, and I will put my screens up. This next row is going to be 6 single crochets and an increase, so that's where my screens will start. And you can go ahead and do all your increases, and then you can do 3 rows of single crochets, and then that's it. Alright, I got mine all done. I cut my thing off. I'm going to go into the next stitch, and I'm going to pull my piece through, and I'm going to pull down. Just cleans it up. That's the only reason I do that. I don't know if it's stupid, but to me, it cleans it up. So I'm just going to put a little more stuffing in here. So there is no rhyme or reason as to where this is getting sewn. It's just getting sewn. You can decide where, but put this at the bottom. I like just sew mine right down at the bottom. So figure out where you want it, and then you can find your own way of sewing on. I've already showed you a couple of ways, so you can figure out how you want to do it. And I'm going to speed this up for time constraints. So I'm back around to where I started. So I'm just going to go down into the doll once more, into the tail, and I'm just going to pop out so I can start my weaving. And you don't have to pull tight. So go in different directions. So now it gets harder to work with because of this tail. But we're just about done. We got scales and arms. That is it. So the knot doesn't have to be tight if you're doing this. You don't have to. I just want the added security going to babies after all. So that's my tail. It's hard to see. I mean, you've seen the original pictures, you get an idea. So he can kind of sit up like that on his own now. That's super cute. Anyway, so next thing we can do is start making all these little scales. We'll do the arms last. So we're going to start making all these little scales here and then sewing them on. So these are not easy. They're easy to sew on, but they're not easy to sew on. Does that make sense? Hopefully you can sew. I can't. I found a way to do it that was easy enough for me. So I will show you after we make one. So you're going to need to get a different color green if you're using it. So I'm using this green. It's 4-weight, but it's not worsted, so it can split and sometimes be quite difficult to work with. But these are such tiny little things that hopefully it doesn't make a huge difference. We're using the same needle. So you're just going to make a magic ring. You put 6 single crochets into that ring. Pull tight. You're going to go 1 single crochet and an increase, so 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. That's 1 single crochet and your stitch marker. Next stitch is going to get 2 single crochets because that's your increase. Next stitch is going to get 1. Next stitch is going to get 2. Get all the way around to your stitch marker, so one more time. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. There's 1, 2 single crochets, and an increase in your turny sideways stitch. Two single crochets and an increase. And one more time, as the yarn is so difficult to work with. But it super suit what I was doing. Super suits. So your increase ends at your marker like usual. So before we go any further, let's do our little knot deal, because our next 4 rows can be 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 4 rows, and you have 12 stitches, so it's going to go pretty fast. So you can just cut this off so it doesn't super annoy you. Super, that's my word for today. So next 4 rows, and then you can fasten off. That's it. You can go ahead and make, let me explain. Go ahead and make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of this size. And then these last 2, I just did, instead of 4 rows of single crochets, I did 3, and then I did 2. So these last 2 are changed. You don't have to do it, but that's what a dinosaur, their scales get smaller down their tail. So that's all you've got to do is, I'll put it up on my screen so you don't have to try to remember this, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regular size scales like the one we just did, and then these last 2 are just going to be short 1 row each. So that's all I did there. So you need 8 altogether. I'm going to put all this up on my screen so you don't have to remember it. So let's do our 4 rows, and then I'll meet you back after this one is done, and I'll show you how I sew it on so that you can do all your scales and sew them on without me. So I'll do my 4 rows and I'll meet you right back here after. Alright, I've done my 4 rows. So I am going to fasten off with enough to sew my work shut and sew onto the doll and weave. So there's a lot going on. You're going to put a little bit of stuffing in here. Like, a little bit of stuffing. Doesn't take much, but it's puffs it up, makes it all puffy. Well, it's all about texture and stuff when you're making kids' toys, so you want him to be able to squeeze and play with that. So I'm not putting much, it's just a little wee bit. So find out where it folds in half, where this is on the side. So you don't have to be super serious about what this looks like, because it's going to be sewn to something, so it doesn't have to look pretty. It just has to be closed. So that's closed. I'm going to do one more just so that's not a bump there. I don't like that. Like that. There. So once you have it, it's going to be very difficult to do on camera, I'm going to tell you right now, because when I stand him up, that's my camera. Okay, I'm going to move my camera. Okay, so I'm a little higher now. Hopefully I can't see my screen, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know where you are. I don't know. I'm just going to sit him down. So hopefully this is going to be on camera so you can see. So you can start anywhere. It doesn't matter where you start on his head. I'm just trying to gauge where I started the last one. So I'm going to go right down into the head, and I'm going to pop out over here. Hopefully I'm catching all this on camera. That doesn't really hold it into place. It's very, very awkward. Thankfully his tail's on, so he kind of acts as a little... So I'm going to go back into the same hole, and I'm going to come up into the scale. So that's not going to be over here anymore. I'm pulling this all the way back to the scale. I'm going to go down into the scale and into the head again. So that's how I was able to secure it. And I just go back and forth like that. So when I come up, I have to make sure that I come up into a different spot. Because if I come up into the same spot, it's going to pull right through. So I have to reshape it after all the messing around. So it doesn't matter where you pop out on the head, you just pop out. Give it some slight little snuggy pulls. Go back down. Come back up into it. So that's how I did it. You might know of an easier way to do it, but that's how I did it. And it seems to hold it snugly enough. I mean, it's nice and tight. And you can keep pulling it as tight as you want. And then I just went back into it. I'm not going through the same hole. I'm just going as close as I can so that it looks like it just looks like a stitch. That's all I want it to look like, is a stitch. So I went back down once I was happy with everything. I just went back down, and then this is where I did the weaving. So hopefully that helps. I'm not a sewer, so I've said in a cajillion of my videos, don't take lessons from me, but that's what I did. There. So that's my one scale. So we'll get all of our scales done and sewn on, and I'll meet you right back here. Alrighty, so I got all my scales done. I did mine a little differently this time, and I didn't put one on the end like my other guy. But the last thing we got to do are the arms. So I'm just going to set him aside. So I get you started, but there's going to be 13 rows where I'm not going to be here, so you got to make 2 of them. So I obviously will put my screen up. So you're going to start with a magic ring, of course. You're going to put 10 single crochets inside this ring. Pull shut. You're going to start by putting 1 single crochet in your first stitch with your stitch marker. And then we're going to instantly go into an increase. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. So this next stitch gets 2 single crochets, so that's your increase. Next stitch gets 1. Next stitch gets 2. So repeat this 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 all the way around back to your marker. You should have a total of 15 stitches when you're done. So that's my 2 rows. So now we're gonna decrease. Whoa, I almost lost my roll. We're going to do 3 single crochets and a decrease, so that's number 1 with your stitch marker. Three single crochets and a decrease. And repeat that all the way around. So when you get back to your marker, you should have 12 stitches left. And then we're going to do 13 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch around. And I will put my pause screen up with what you're doing now, making the second arm. So I'm going to put the pattern up and get it stuffed, and I'll meet you back here. We'll sew the top shut and we'll sew it on together. Alright, I got both my arms done. That one I sewed up already. This one I just finished stuffing. I'm going to sew this up. So just fold it. This is on the side. And this doesn't have to be pretty, it's just an arm. It's just sewing it so it's easier to sew to the body. That is it. So I'm not doing a traditional whip stitch, but kind of sort of like it, but through all the pieces, not just two. A whip stitch is back loop to back loop. I'm doing all the stitches. So let me get my guy. So you just need to determine where you want him. I designed him so that it comes out of his neck. His arms come out of his neck. So that's where I'm going to put mine. And I'm going to do the invisible stitches because I think it's a better hold. And a much cleaner look and a better hold, really, personally. But that's me. You may prefer another method of sewing stuff on, and that's perfectly a-okay. As long as the arm gets sewn on, doesn't really matter how, as long as it's not going to come off. Go down a couple times on that end piece just for added security. I think when I ever took one of my dolls apart, they'd see like all kinds of knots. So I don't sew underneath the arm because number one, it's not necessary. Number two, if I did, the arm would stick out like that. So that's why I only sew the top. That's arm number one. Now you just gotta make sure you get, this is always my problem, getting the arms even. Ooh, I might have actually got them even. And we are all done. That is it. This is our dinosaur. I know I'm really close. Let's try this. All finished. Now we got two. I got two grandsons. Identical twins. One's fatter than the other. That's okay. I stuffed them differently. I also did their scales different. So one is for Colt and one is for Chase. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.